Hello and welcome to another video from In3D Software. My name's Peter and today I'm going to make a little video here showing the differences between the current version and the previous versions of iX2019 and 2017 and the current version, or the more up-to-date version of 2021. If you haven't already been updated, we'll be updating our existing users soon, and if you're new to the software, you'll be able to see some of the features and benefits of how you can use this to design and manufacture furniture. So let's dive into the software and have a look at some of the changes. So you can see on the screen here it looks very similar to AutoCAD, and that's because we use it as our graphics engine. And some of the changes to the previous versions are mostly based around the user interface. We've tried to streamline things and consolidate some of the menus together to make them a little bit easier to navigate. One of the major changes is Article Designer, so let's look at that first. Now, Article Designer, as some of our existing users will know, is one of the most powerful ways that we can make parametric furniture. So let's give an example of how the new Article Designer set will help do that. So, first thing is, let's create a room. So, I'm going to go to the Room Plan button up at the top here, and then I'll just expand this out and create a rectangular room with a little alcove here up at the top. So that's now created this alcove, and I can select the walls here and change the wall thickness and the wall length. So I'll say that this should be 600 here, and then I want my wall thickness here and here to also be 100, but I'll say that this one, the length of it should be 1200. Okay, so here's my 3D room, and I can orbit around this room and add in other features, so things like doors and windows. So let's add in a door here, and we'll just say that that door should be 200mm from the corner, and we'll flip the handle, and then we will add in some windows as well. So let's come to the Windows tab here, and on this wall down at the back here, let's add in some windows. Okay, this looks good. So in our alcove that we've made over here, let's create a bespoke piece of furniture in here. Now, in the previous version of Article Designer, if we opened up the tool, it would open up a new window, and that would then obscure our design, which would make things a little bit trickier. However, with the new version, what we've done is included it into the main CAD environment. So over here, if I go to the Design tab now, I can go to Article Designer, and you can see here I've now got this cube attached to my cursor, and I can position this wherever I like. Now the good thing is I can also set the size, just as previous Article Designers, to the height, width and depth that I desire. So in here I'm going to say it's 2.2 meters high. I'm going to say that it is 1160 wide to give me a little bit of a gap either side. And then the depth in here I'm going to say should be 560 deep. So then when I come into the space, I can position this tight into the corner and then press M to move it 20mm away. So now I've got my Article Designer in position, and I can then populate this. So over here you can see I've got my menus, and because they're now in the dockable palettes, I can move these around and put them wherever I need them to be. So I'm just going to put them side by side. Previously the options were a little bit further down here on the left hand side, but now because they're in the dockable palettes, I can make them however I want. So one of the things I'm going to do in here first is add in a base. So it's now going to lift it up about 150mm off the floor, and I also want to include some design parameter rules, construction rules, and maybe even an article category. Then I want to add in my parts, and one of the major differences between this new version and the previous version is I don't need to double click now each face. I can just simply click on each icon that represents a side or a face of the actual carcass. In this case I've done the top, the bottom, the left and the right hand side. Now that's really useful because previously people would double click and it would then add in the part, and they might single click and get frustrated, and when you're learning the software that can be a little bit annoying. So this makes it a lot easier. The next step in here is to put in a back, so I can do that as well. And in here, if I want to, I can now orbit and zoom in nice and close, so I can now see in the 3D model exactly where my back is, and I can then, if I want to, increase things like the inset. So I'll just say that this should be 30mm inset, and you then get that live preview on the screen. So that's my back now brought in, which is nice. And the next thing I want to do is show you our dividers. In this case here on the screen, you can see I've got the horizontal divide in the form of virtual division, which is effectively an imaginary cut through the actual product. And what I want to do is divide this thing up. So I'll change this from being a horizontal divide to a vertical divide. And another new feature is it's now brought in this red arrow showing me exactly how this is going to be split up. I'll change this from being an imaginary plane to a partition, and I've now got two equal zones using the linear division of 1:1, or a ratio of 1:1, like a scale on a technical drawing. If I change that to 1:2, the right hand side will be twice as big as the left hand side. One of the other new features in the Article Designer is the ability to simply say divide the depth, and this will then flip this around, which previously would involve setting a different reference edge as the first element for division. So that's a nice new feature to make things quicker and easier. I'll keep it as the width, but I'll say 1:2:1 and increase the quantity of my dividers, and you can see now I've now got 3 zones, which is handy because I wanted to create this middle zone in here with some draws. So I'll go into my middle zone here, and I'll simply say that I want a fixed shelf, splitting it up vertically, and I'll say that this should be 700mm to 1. Then in the lower section of there, I'll put in some draws, and I'll say that I want 2 draws, equally spaced, that should be inset. So I've now got my 2 draws in here, which I like, and I might just change the height of that, so I can come into here and look at it from the front and zoom in at my draw section, and it's a lot easier to navigate in here now than the previous version of Article Designer. So now I've got my 2 draws, I'll just come to my original split here and change that 700 to 600, so I'll end up with 2 draws roughly 900 high. 300 high, sorry. So in the upper section in there, let's just come in and add in some shelves a bit further up. So here's my shelf, and I'll just put in here some adjustable shelves that are made out of glass, and I'll increase the quantity. So I've now got those 3 adjustable shelves. And then on the outside, I can come into here and add in just a standard adjustable shelf, but again I'll increase the quantity and add in quite a few more. That looks a bit better. Now I want shelves on the left hand side as well, so what I can do is simply copy that entire zone and put it on the left hand side. Okay, this looks good. So what I want to do now is confirm with a tick so that I can have a look at the product. And now I want to make some changes to the materials. Now I can use variables, which are effectively my job specifications, and in here I can load in some previous settings to get to the options that I want. And you'll see it will be reconfigured now to use a different material and a different set of draw fronts. I'll just increase my level of detail here using the Vision Manager. And you can see now it's brought through my material for my glass shelf, and if I zoom right in, you'll see I've got my glass shelf peg here, and then I've got my drilling for my standard shelf peg. You can see I've even got all of the edging information for the individual edges that are required. Okay. Let's switch into a wireframe view so that we can see all of the hardware. Now the nice thing about imos is we're using live production data, so all of this information is ready to be sent to the CNC. But I might want to change some of the design elements in here, such as the fittings. I can do that with a connection scan, and that's going to bring up all of the fittings that are being used within this design. So you can see on here, here's my products, and these are the glass shelf clips that I've got, and I want to change these to be these most standard ones. And then I want to change my shelf pegs to be something more like these ones here. I'll change the dowels that are being used for this fixed shelf to be 40mm ones. I can also change my lamellos in here to be the Clamex or the Tenso versions to clip these miters together. And then I've got my draw runner system, which I'll change to be Hetic, and I'll choose these Antara ones here. So all of this information is provided via iFern, and it's bringing through all of the 3D models and all of the drilling patterns. If I just click tick now, it will refresh and it will bring through that updated drilling pattern information, and it will bring through all of the machining information as well. And if I just zoom in on that in here, you can see the shelf peg types have swapped. I can also in here now use the new tool, and if I go to presentation, I can use interactive animation on my drawer, and I can use my mouse to open and close my drawer box. Excellent. I'm happy with the design, so let's save this so that it's in the library for next time. I'll just go here and right click and say modify the article, click on the product, and then I can go to the save disk, and then I can give it a name. So in here I'm going to call this tall freestanding unit, and I will give it a tick on the preview image, and I can just use this new feature in 2021 to preset a little image in here so that it's ready for use in the library. Now that I've saved it, if I just click tick again and go over to my library, if I refresh, you'll see here's the tall freestanding unit, and there's the preview image of it ready to be used again. So I can bring that in and position it in a slightly different position if I need to. So that's the new article designer. Obviously there's a couple of things in here that I've skipped over, but once you get used to the new interface, I'm sure you'll be able to pick it up quite quickly. Let's now talk about some of the other nice tools within the system, the article insertion tools. So previously in the older versions we had the Atonium, and then we had the newer article snapping tools, and in here we now have the best of both. So if we go to the articles center, I can run a search for B1DC, and it will bring up all of my base one door corner units, and I'll just choose this one here. When I double click and bring it from the library this time, you can see it's brought through that default size, and it's going to affect the product by snapping to that wall. You'll also notice here that I've got some options in the variable list down here, which is another nice new feature that allows me to customize the product on the fly. So I can change the carcass and say that the carcass on this particular product should be an Egger natural oak finish. So I'll just put this down in position, and you can see now that my carcass is using a wood grain material in here instead. Okay, let's go down in our level of detail. So I'll just go up to the Start tab and then Visu Manager, and I'll just come down in this level of detail in here just to make it a little bit quicker. So the next thing is to bring in a couple of other products. So let's bring in a single door base unit. So I'll do a base one door, and then if I double click on it and bring it in again, you'll notice down at the bottom I've got some options down here. So I can put it into position. It will detect the products that's already in position and snap it to them, and I can then use stretch by hitting S and enter, and then stretch this product on the fly. I'll say that the overall size of this should be 450 millimeters, and then I can use another option here called multiple insert. I'll just click on that and it will remember my choice and the width that I've put it to, and I can then put that to the other side, and I've now got these two products in here. Let's find a draw pack. So I'll go up to the article center again and I'll type B2D. So here's my base 2 door unit, and I can then, sorry, base 2 drawer unit, let's find that. There we go. So I can now bring this into position, and again I can use the stretch. I can change the base point as well if I want to by choosing a different base point, and that will then allow me to move it around and snap it to 3D geometry if I don't want it to use the automatic snapping feature. I can use M for move so that I can move it away from products or through products if I want to, and I can use distance control here and say distance, and this should be 650 in this direction. That's now moved it off enough. Okay, so here's my draw unit, and again I can just come up to the designer tab and copy that product if need be over to here. Let's find some end panels. So I'll go to vertical panel underscore, and in here I've got my vertical panels, and I can then copy these from one point to another. So you can see it's very quick and easy to position these and move them around. Okay, so we just need an appliance in here, and obviously we also have some of those in here as well. So if I go into kitchen and then appliance, and then in here I've got for example these types of I don't know what they're called, some sort of wine fridge kind of thing, I guess. So I can move these around. Okay, so I'm happy with my design. Let's look at another new feature within iX2021, which is the drawing views features. So I'll just go into a plan view here, and I can then come into drawing views and then create a 2D floor plan. So in here I'll say that the drawing visualization level is unchanged, so it will keep it at its lowest visual level, which will create a nice quick drawing. And then in here as well I can get it to create dimensions for these. So if I window select over, you'll see that it's now going to create my plan view for me, and it's brought through all of those dimensions ready to be used. It's also brought in the annotation, so you can see it's brought through door swings, drawer swings, and then all of the dimensions that are required. And I can add to those at any time, so I can select the product, the plan, and then I've now got add dimensioning built into this section here, so I can just start to dimension freely from here. Another nice feature is the ability to add in my elevation markers in one go and then create the elevations afterwards. So this is slightly better than the previous version where it would create an elevation and then an elevation and then an elevation. So if I select here the plan view and say insert elevation indicator, I can then choose where I want this to be and say I want it to be right here, and then select it again. And you'll notice the options will come through here as well, ready for the automatic drawing generation. So if I now go to automatic elevations, I can choose to generate 1, 2 elevations in one go, and then just right click and you can see it will automatically dimension those up for me and position them. It's also annotated these for me as well. Okay. Another nice feature in iX2021 is the manual annotation tool. So I can annotate manually as well as automatically. So in here I can click select data block, and I have a list here of all of my AutoCAD data blocks. I'm just going to choose article position name here and then click on the product, and you can then see it's going to give me position number 10 is the base 2 draw. So this is a really nice feature for doing more unusual annotations that might be a little bit out of place. Another nice feature is the automatic sheet up process. So what I can do now is just come into here and say layouts for all 2D drawings. So it's now sheeted these up down at the bottom, and I've now got my plan, view 1 and view 2 ready to be sent to the printer. Okay, so let's now have a look at the next set of features, which is in Object Designer. So what I'm going to do here is just start a new Object Designer, and I'm just going to make a rough product, a bar or something silly. So what I'm going to do is just use a polyline from AutoCAD, and I'm going to say that this should come out 2 meters, and it's going to go up 2 meters, and it's going to go across 2 meters, and then I can add in a bit of a bend in here or something like that. And then what I want to do is draw my shapes. So the first thing I'm going to do is use a side view segment, and I'm just going to come up, and you'll see in here, if I zoom in, it's actually giving me a thickness here relative to the actual material that's going to be used. So I'll come up 900, across 200, and down another 900 here. So that's going to be my cladding, and you can see it's automatically mitered these for me as well. And I can select them and go to the properties, and I can change things like my core material, the laminate, the edging, the fittings that are being used. So now that I've got my 3 sections in here that I'm quite happy with, the next thing to do is create my uprights. So I need to draw them from the side first. So I'll just use another polyline tool and come up 400. I might come in here maybe 100, and then come up this way, I don't know, 200, something like that. And I'll just draw around this nice and quick and close that off. So this is now going to be my former or rear bore, you may call them something different, and that's the actual view of it. Now in here, to actually physically make these things, we want to have these nice and clean as a square corner in here in case we need to put some material in here. So if I just come up, for example, I can drag this all the way up here and then add in some other sections in here if need be. So if I come in, for example, and do another side view segment, I might want to come up, miter into here, run around, and then come out this way 300 millimeters, like this for example. And in order to get that sharp corner in there, I need my rib to have that corner notched out. Now in the new CAM engine we have a feature that will detect that for us and apply that sharp corner if need be. Another feature that's been asked for is the ability to add in cable access or machine into the center of this. So what I'll do is just go into a top view again, rotate around, and I'll just draw in here maybe a circular pocket. So I'll just use a circle command from AutoCAD, and I'll just come down here 100 millimeters and use a radius 50 millimeters, and that's going to be my cable pass through or whatever. So the next section in here is to assign this as a side view contour. So I can select that, and then what I just want to do here is just select that and move it up ever so slightly. So I'll move that up 10 mil. And then you can see in here I've now got two lines. The pink one is the imos one that I need. And then what I can do is come in here and say that I want to create a circle as a pocket. Here's my circle, and I want to then choose this pink line here that's been created. Now I need to create my positions for my vertical upright ribs. So I'll come over to the top view, and in here I'll just say from this position here, this needs to go 200 mil in this direction, and then I can use the AutoCAD command array, select that, and then do a path array along here. Now that's a bit too many, so let's just space this out so that it looks a little bit more uniform, and I'm happy with this. Oh, too many. I'm not doing a very good job of clicking now. There we go. I'll just explode this selection now. So I've now got all of my individual segments, and I can now create parts from two views. So I'll come in here, and I do need to actually assign this as my extrusion path. So I'll create parts from two views and say that this is my path, and it's what's going to be used for all of these pink sections here. And then if I say, yeah, right click and then insert a new point here, and you can see it's now created my bar or servery or whatever this thing is. Now I need my uprights to come through in here as well, so I'll just hide my parts for now and then say that I need to create parts from two views from this part here and all of these. So I'll just window select all of those and then right click, and it's now going to add all of those parts in. And when I show my parts again, and in here I will increase my level of detail, it's brought through all of my cable access holes in these parts as well for me. Now I can obviously edit this and change them about if need be, add in different fittings and fixings and so on, and just go from there. So for example, if I could select this part here, here we go. I can then come into the settings and say that on this edge I want a connector in the form of a dowel. And let's choose in here my dowel for Object Designer. And then if I again refresh and come over to my model and switch into an X-ray view, you'll see it's brought through those dowels in there for me as well. That's part of my fittings. So these are the new settings and features within Object Designer, and I do think that they are really quite useful when it comes to creating new designs ready for production. So let's move on to the next thing that's quite new, iX CAM. So let's now look at iX CAM and the new features within iX2021. As mentioned, we've got the corner clearance, which will pick up on this internal corner here that's required to be cleaned out. If we zoom in, this will need to be made possible for this inset piece here to be brought in. And then some of the other features will be the report, and we'll look at some of the setup for how we want these to behave. So let's save the order and then generate the CNC data. Now when we save the order, we can also generate information for other software packages, and we can also generate technical drawings and reports and labels. Here we have our CAM engine, the new iX CAM engine using the PXM files, and you'll notice just how quick it is to generate all of these parts. So in here I'm going to choose my workflow, and I'm going to use this 5-axis Homag machine because I've got a lot of edges that need to be mited with a 5-axis aggregate saw. But you can see in here I've got lots of different machine manufacturers from SCM, EMA, NC Hobbs, BSC, and we can even create G-code and custom post processors if required. If I come in here, I'll select my workflow, and you'll see that I have my PXM files being generated and passed through the post processor, and then over here I have my reports, and you can see I've now got my corner clearance in here for all of these parts. So as we come down through the list, these are all of my upright ribs, and then I also then have all of the remaining other files for all those other angled parts. Let's have a look at them in WoodWop. First I'll open up the rib. So you can see in here I've got my toolpath which will clean out my corners, and I have my circular pocket that I created earlier on as well. Let's now move on to another part. So you can see in here I also have all of my milling and then my angled cuts for my fittings and for the mitre cuts. Let's have a look at a bit more detail at iX CAM. So if I go into the element manager, some of the other new features within the iX CAM workflow center is the ability to copy between stations. So I might have multiple workflows set up that I might want to copy from one machine to another. This is a great new feature. It's also now set to be multi-threaded, so the faster your core on your CPU, the quicker you'll generate the CNC files. Also, we have on the machining principles great new tooltips, so it will bring through all of these little helpful snippets and examples and bits and pieces of information that will make sure it's a lot easier to set up the machining controls. Okay, so now that we've finished looking at iX CAM, let's look at a couple of other different settings. So in here we can also open up Element Manager, and we can look within the iX Share settings, which I'll come on to in a second. But within Design Manager, I now have the ability to bring in my XML files to make sure that they're backed up and protected. This is a fantastic feature for anybody that's using iX Plan. We also have under the general rules the variables list settings that I showed you earlier on, where we can customize products before we bring them in. So let's have a look at iX Share Scout. This is my web browser, and you can see here I have two products on the screen that have been designed in imos iX2021. Now, iX Share Scout allows us to upload this information onto the internet and have a secure portal where we can share this information with the production team and the fitting teams. This means that if during the process of installation or even production a part gets damaged, we can select the part on the model or scan the barcode and it will highlight the information required. So we can see the drilling information, we can also see things like the edging and grain direction and all of the appropriate sizes, weight, area and the barcode or the CNC drilling pattern that's required. We can also pass information via a dialog button here that asks us to remake something. iX Scout is going to be a fantastic tool for companies that have external fitting teams or internal fitting teams and want to keep track of parts from not just production but onwards into the use cycle of the product. So that's everything for now. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. The contact details will be below the video, and we'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks for watching.